it back to just last year when we were all virtual again. So, once in a while, you might see us use this from time to time. Welcome to Raptors Today. I'm Savanna Hamilton alongside Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Amy Audibert will be joining us in a little bit. Now, the Raptors, they won against the Washington Wizards. What a game for the team. The score was 102-90, so let's jump right on in it. How did they hold the Wizards to just 12 points in the first quarter? Jonesy, I'm going to go to you first.
I thought, Savannah, we look at this 12-point quarter, and I can't say that I didn't see it coming. In the last three games, and the Raptors have won two of them, they've held opponents to 41.5 in a loss to Boston, under 40 or under 39 with Memphis, and then, under 38. So I can't say that I didn't see this coming. I thought they did a great job in terms of starting the game with the energy needed. Washington was coming off 4 double-digit losses. Their last 4 losses had been by double figures. I thought Toronto did a great job of jumping on them early, not necessarily forcing turnovers, but being attuned to who had the ball, where and when. It was a very quiet day from Bradley Beal when you think about it, 4 of 12. I know I'm going to get into this a little bit later with Montrezl Harrell and Precious Achiuwa, but the Raptors defense was on, and they did a good job rebounding. Again, you look at the stats, they out-rebounded Washington, and that started early. They got a 10-point lead early and just played with that cushion the entire time. And it was because of the defense, challenging shots, contesting, being in the passing lane, putting ball pressure on, forcing Washington to take difficult shots. I just thought they did a good job early, and that set the tone for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. And somebody who had a bit of a slower start, but really, really picked it up with the energy was Pascal Siakam, who ended up with 31 points. Sherm, what did you think of his game last night?
Well, I saw a lot of really good things from Pascal Siakam, Sav, when you talk about just the way that he was scoring in that first half. 24 of his 31 came in the first half. And that second quarter, he had 17 points, going a perfect 7 for 7 from the floor. I really think that Pascal played with great energy. I thought that his ability to attack the different ways that Washington wanted to defend him, he was constantly working it out on the fly. And I love the fact that he wasn't settling. In the first half, he was 8 of 13. Of those 13 field goals, only one of them was a three-point shot. So he wasn't staying on the perimeter and letting it fly. He was getting into the spots that he knew that he could score from. He massaged the defense multiple times so that he could shoot over the top. I just loved his energy and his focus in terms of it was about executing a game plan within the bigger game plan for his team. And he was aggressive, did a great job staying consistent, especially in that first half of putting the ball in the basket. So it was great to see him kind of shake off more of that rust. Remember, he's missed a lot of time. So just because we've seen him back this long, the expectation is that he's got it all together. He's still a work in progress, and it was good to see him take such a big step against the Washington Wizards.
Absolutely. And that's more what I refer to as slow start, is just the beginning of the season. He's slowly making his way back into the team, of course. But somebody who has really showed out as well last night was Precious Achiuwa. He actually had a double-double, 10 points, 14 rebounds in 30 minutes, Jonesy. But, he was 50% from the field. And he also locked down Montrezl Harrell, as you mentioned briefly before. But please go into it, because which side of his game did you like better?
You always have to love the defensive side. I mean, the offense is, I feel with a guy like Precious, sometimes is bonus just because of what you need him to do at the defensive end. And look, I want to attack a couple things here. First off, I think he simplified his game. He had a lot of freedom when he came from Miami, things he probably couldn't do in a system in Miami. And now that he's explored it all, he's narrowing it. Okay, I don't need to do this much of this. I don't need to do this much of that. I'll take my freedom, but I'll concentrate it on these things. You talk about the 50% scoring, shooting on the offensive end. He's taking mid-range shots. He's finally got the timing down with Fred on the alley-oop. But I like to unpack the defensive end, Savannah, because you said something there. Montrezl Harrell's a guy that plays with a lot of energy, a lot of intensity, and you have to meet that. He really gave Toronto a hard time on opening night in Toronto. I thought Precious did a good job of matching that, just being physical with him. You think about it yesterday. We talked about a quiet game for Bradley Beal. there wasn't a whole lot of noise from Montrezl Harrell. He did have double-figure rebounds. I'll give him that, but he had to work for those. We didn't get the explosive putbacks, the relentless offensive glass 2-3 times scoring in an on and one. That stuff did not exist from Montrezl Harrell yesterday. And I think a lot of that was because of what Precious Achiuwa did. So Precious did a great job on the defensive end, neutralizing Montrezl, and then gave the Raptors some bonus on the offensive end with his scoring.
Absolutely. And another bonus, I would say, that came off of the bench, Chris Boucher, who, once again, he's been a little bit overdue for a really great game, and he's been contributing and just like really stepping up on, at least in this game. He had 14 points coming off the bench. Sherm, what did you see from him? What did you like out there last night?
A lot of things, Sav. And again, we know Chris Boucher can impact the game coming off the bench.
Absolutely.
He's been in and out of the lineup. He's figured out different things that have worked and things that haven't worked. But what I really appreciated about his approach this time was that he didn't force anything. He didn't try to push his offense on the floor. He made it happen. He let it just come to him. And, it's interesting when you saw that second unit, I thought they did a great job of ball movement, body movement. And Chris Boucher cutting to the basket, timely cuts, not just trying to get his offense off. And it really worked out for him, as you said, 5 of 7 from the floor. So the good thing about Chris is that he didn't jack it up. He only took 1 3. And the fact is, this is something that he can duplicate, understanding that the game's going to come to him. The game is going to offer up things that he's going to be able to take advantage of. It's when he forces the issue, sometimes he gets into trouble. But I just loved his energy. I loved his demeanor, the calmness and the approach that he had. And it led to a very efficient night. And it led to one of the best bench performances of the season that we've seen overall, led by him.
Absolutely. Now we're going to hear from the head coach, Nick Nurse, on his thoughts after the game.
Yeah, we were really connected, just not a whole lot of mistakes, and most of the shots had somebody in front of them one way or another, and it's good to see. I thought that group that started, set the tone, but I also thought every single guy that came in off the bench brought the same kind of energy and even maybe a little more, which is, that's kind of what we're hoping for it to look like. But it was a good, I thought, all-around team effort defensively.
Now we're going to talk some wins just in general. We're on a bit of a win streak here. Got some 2 games at home. Maybe we were breaking that home game perception of what we started off in the beginning of the season. But Jonesy, I'm going to go to you. What are some intangible wins that don't show up on the stat sheet that you've noticed?
Well, one of the things, Savannah, we've talked about it on this show, the kind of disparity that, or the disconnect that Fred's playing a lot of minutes, but you got to play him if you want to win. And in last night's game, Fred let somebody else drive. Pascal played well. They had guys coming off the bench, and I thought they did a terrific job of managing him. He contributed, but it was like he didn't overextend themselves, and he played. He got to consolidate his timing with people, but at the same time, he wasn't overextended. So that's big. And now that's 2 home wins in a row. You think about Oklahoma City coming in, they'll be playing Detroit before they come in, but they're coming off a terrible loss. If you can get Oklahoma City, and I hate to play the woulda, shoulda, coulda game and start looking ahead and making checks and X's on the schedule, but if you get Oklahoma City, that's 3 in a row. You got a big matchup with a division rival, the Knicks, who have slipped. And right now, as we record this, they're below the playoff line. You've already beaten them once. And then you got Sacramento coming in. They'll be on the East Coast, and you've beaten them once, and they're adjusting to a new coach and a new system. So could I potentially see a 5-game winning streak here? Yeah, I could. And it's important to have Fred rested because you may need him more than you did yesterday in these upcoming games.
Jonesy, I like the woulda, shoulda, coulda game.
Oh,
especially when
let's go buy lottery tickets. Let's go buy
lottery
tickets
right now. I agree. Sure, I'm going to head it over to you. What wins don't show up on the stat sheet that you've taken notice of?
Well, there's a lot of things, but one of the things that I really enjoyed, Savannah, about that Washington win was, the bench showed up. The bench played very well, and this is something that Nick Nurse has talked about throughout the early course of this season, trying to find that consistency. And let's be honest, they've struggled in part because guys haven't been healthy. So Nick Nurse has had to always adjust his roster. But to see the bench play the way they did, led by Chris Boucher, as I talked about earlier in the show. But in the first half, the bench had 21 points. 4 players had 5 points or more going into halftime coming off the bench. So they were engaged early. They were productive early. And a lot of times when we talk about bench production, we talk about it from an offensive perspective because that's the more visceral part of the game. But they were great defensively. I thought they did an excellent job in terms of how they scored the basketball, moving the ball, sharing the ball, and making sure that they had great spacing. Nobody was trying to be a hero. And to me, the bench's performance is something, as we talk about moving into potentially a 5-game winning streak, as Jonesy was alluding to, the bench could be a big part of that. And they can find some consistency as well. So there's a lot of positives, I think, in what the Raptors are doing beyond the defense. And I think that the bench has been a bright spot. And to see them perform the way they did against Washington, the goal, I believe, for Nick Nurse is to get similar production or even better moving forward from that group.
Absolutely. Know your role and do it well.
Yes.
You know how I feel. You know how I feel about hero basketball.
I know how you feel, Seth. Nobody has to wear a cape. Everybody just come in and play hard.
Exactly. Now we're going to hear from Pascal Siakam and Chris Boucher.
I do a lot of meditation before the game also because, like I said, I just need to, be the Chris that I always been. And for that, I kind of needed to, get all the stuff out of my head before a game. So I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of film. I have my team that, they help me a lot just to figure out what I'm doing well and, also watching the game when I play bad and show me the reason why I'm not playing. And, sometimes I'm like, why am I not playing? But then you go watch the clip and you're like, that's why. And those are the reasons, I'm trying to fix those reasons so I could be on the floor because I think I could help this team with the way I'm playing.
I think obviously we're getting reps. We practice every day. I don't think I've practiced that much since I've been in the NBA. We practice, we get the reps in, and I think coach and the whole coaching staff, they really, we watch film every day. We try to get better, and like every single day we're out there on the floor. So it doesn't matter how many minutes and all that. So and I think for me, just obviously just coming back is good for me, just being out there and continue to practice and get my legs under me.
We're gonna head over to Amy Audibert to talk some Raptors 905.
Thanks, Sav. It's been a busy stretch for the 905. So let's start at the beginning. Over the weekend on Saturday, Justin Champagnie was absolutely amazing. He had 34 points and 9 rebounds. And it was certainly a treat for a lot of the fans or people because we don't get to see Justin as much with the Raptors. But again, 34 points. He can shoot the ball, but he's got incredible bounce. So he got to the rim. He had some monster finishes, and he plays the game with a smile on his face. He loves it out there, and it was certainly a pleasure to watch. And now let's please chat a little Dalano Banton. Because both the Raptors and the 905 have homestands, he's going to be playing a lot of basketball over the week, and he was fantastic with the 905, especially on Monday morning, right at home at Scotiabank Arena. He had 30 points, but it's his efficiency. He was 11 for 18, and it's got to be a little bit difficult because everybody wants to see him shoot and score more, but he still wants to help the team win and play good, smart basketball. He did this today. He pushed the pace as he always does, and we know he's the hometown hero, so he put on a show with the 905. The 905 gave the crowd a real exciting game on Monday morning. They got down 20-0 to start and walked away with a W. They turned things around quickly. They scored 60 points in the paint. They had 16 steals and converted that into 33 points. Isaac Bonga was so good. And for him, it started on the defensive end. He shot so many gaps. 4 steals led to some nice offense for his team. And Malachi Flynn, while statistically he didn't shoot the ball great, I thought he did a good job of coming in and running the show, which is what the Raptors are going to look for him to do, right? Facilitate and take command, be a floor general. And Malachi contributed to a big win for the 905.
Now, Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors organization, they celebrated something called GOA, Giants of Africa night this past Sunday. Now, it was a whole day event, but they really celebrated during the game as well. But let's talk more so about the program and just what exactly it is, Jonesy.
Well, to me, and I've always said this, it's on my social media handles from my days in education. I'm a parent too. I just think when you involve your kids in sports, it teaches them life skills. It teaches them discipline. It teaches them teamwork. It teaches how to, win gracefully, learn from losing. There's a lot of resiliency built. And with Masai and the Giants of Africa program, going to the continent and going to all the different countries and establishing these grassroots programs, what you're really doing is teaching life skills, but you're doing it through basketball. And who knows, you may find a superior athlete. I always laugh at this because when I was teaching grade school, I wasn't a poetry guy, but I taught it because it was part of the curriculum. And who knows, it might spark a kid. We might have the next rapper because the kid was in the class learning poetry. So I just think it's a whole program. And I love the way Masai has taken it from country to country in Africa, put basketball at the center, but really he's teaching life, he's teaching opportunities. If you get a chance to look at him, how passionate he is when he talks to the kids about dreaming, about producing, about giving your best and doing your best. That's not just about basketball, that's about life. And I think what he's doing is expanding, the greater base of humanity to be better through basketball when he starts this program.
Absolutely. And, we've seen almost immediate impact directly with the Toronto Raptors. Look at Precious Achiuwa, for example. He was a part of the camp, and now he's directly with the Toronto Raptors, as Masai Ujiri pointed that out first thing. Apparently he went up to Precious and said, "You're mine now," as a result of the camp. But, Sherm, I want to talk about the impact and the importance of Giants of Africa.
It's huge, Sav. And again, as Jonesy was alluding to it, it's more than just on the court. It's more than just putting a basketball in these kids' hands and putting a court for them to play on. That is a huge part of it. But, to tag on to the life part of it, basketball and sports, they break down so many barriers. You don't worry about the color of the skin of the person you're passing the ball to, or you're receiving the ball from, or you're high-fiving on the court. It doesn't matter. It's a team game. You're trying to win. Everybody's trying to do whatever they can to help the team win. And to me, if we think about it globally, worldwide, if that's how we operated, how many things would be so much better in our world? So I just think that Giants of Africa has done a great job of putting that mirror in front of everybody and saying, look, this is what we can be when we work together. And I think when you talk about the continent of Africa and being able to cultivate that mentality, it's bigger. The world is bigger than just the continent. All of a sudden, these kids that never had the idea or the thought that they could impact the world now can look at it differently. And we don't know what that will translate into later on in life. So it's just a great thing. It's a huge endeavor. And Masai has done an amazing job at being consistent and determined with his message.
Yes, so many touching moments. If you've actually watched the GOA documentary, of course, some stuff that has resonated with me is just the opportunity that these kids are given. A lot of times they don't have a chance to be seen by NBA scouts or really seen leadership like Masai Ujiri's up close and personal, very much involved. Masai didn't just come to the NBA and forget about the continent of Africa. No, he's like, how do we embed this into our game here? How do we open the doors and have more visibility for these players, for these kids? We've seen opportunities from the camps translate to NCAA scholarships, let alone forget the NBA. Now we're talking education. We're talking the bigger picture here. So, I have nothing but admiration for his leadership. And, Jonesy, going to you for this. How incredible is that Masai Ujiri can have his own organization. It's called That's Humanity. Run this whole camp, run this whole entire event that he puts on for the continent of Africa, many different countries, and still be the president, GM, every single hat you could possibly imagine he's worn in the Raptors front office.
Sav, my late father used to say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Yes.
They'll make sure it gets done. And I see Masai in that same light. He's got all of these things on the go. As you said, he's running a team. He's looking after Giants of Africa, the organization. He's got his own organization. He's lending his name to all different aspects of humanity, whether it be Black Lives Matter or women's groups, or he's in there. So I give him credit, and yet he doesn't seem to spread himself thin. So he's an amazing man. It's terrific that he's more than just a basketball example for the people in Toronto with the Raptors, but he's an example of how you should be living your life and trying to make things better. The late Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, our life is measured on this planet by service to others. And, Masai has also taken, being impacted by Nelson Mandela and what he went through and taken that message. And it seems to me like he's doing his best to pay that forward right now too.
Well, you said the key name right there, Nelson Mandela. Sherm, please talk on his impact and why it's so important to recognize him on these nights as well.
Well, in my humble opinion, Nelson Mandela is one of the greatest human beings to ever grace the face of this earth. And, when you talk about the impact that he's had globally from the continent of Africa, it's been amazing and it's ongoing. And it's going to be years and years since he's passed. And he's going to still be mentioned, talked about because of his leadership, because of his humility, because of his kindness, because of his ability to let us understand that people are people. We just have to be able to understand how to communicate with each other. To me, Masai couldn't have picked a better role model in terms of someone that he wanted to emulate, someone he wanted to continue to convey the message of. And you think about successful people and people that are driven, there's usually a motivating factor. Regardless of what it is, there's usually someone or something that is motivating. And for Masai Ujiri, he's spoken highly and consistently about the impact that Nelson Mandela has had in his life. And we can all speak to the fact that Nelson Mandela has an impact on all of our lives. But you couldn't figure a better role model to emulate, to deliver a message, and to be kind of in the same vein of what the goals were for Nelson Mandela. Masai picked the right guy, no question about it.
Well said. Well said. Just so our fans know who are watching, we will be doing our preview of OKC in our next episode. But thank you for tuning in to another episode of Raptors Today from Savanna Hamilton, Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, and Amy Audibert, Jake, and Luke. Have a great day.